Many of us experience a loss, and then there is the vacuum left from all the activity that suddenly disappears.
Yeah.
The funeral ends, the meal train comes to an end, and it seems like the world has just kept moving, and we are in a spot still where the death occurred. We are told that grief is something to process, get through, endure quietly, or just show up, keep doing the things that you've been doing prior to that loss.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you want to do something more. You want to honor your loss, but you don't know what that something entails. And maybe you think rituals are only for religious people, or that creating an altar feels dramatic, or that it might make the grief heavier instead of lighter. If you've ever felt unsure of how to acknowledge your loss in a real, tangible way, you're not alone.
That's right, because the issue isn't that you're grieving wrong. It's really that we just often don't create intentional spaces for grief in this culture, right?
That's
And
right.
ritual's not necessarily about religion. It's really about paying attention to that grief or the loss
That's right.
and giving attention to it. A sacred space doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be as simple as a candle, a photograph, a stone, even a handwritten note. So instead of asking, how do I move on? What if we asked, how do I make space? How do I make sacred space? Creating that space or sacred space after loss isn't about holding on to pain. It's about giving grief somewhere to land.
That's right. In this episode, Wakil and I will talk about this, how to create a grief ritual at home. And we'll be telling you some simple and accessible ways to begin without pressure or perfection.
Mm.
Things you might put on your remembrance altar are like meaningful objects, or thinking about what your intention is when you start this process, and how to personalize the space that you are making for this time. Ritual helps you process grief. There's this emotional and psychological impact of intentional remembrance.
Yeah, it's so important. So by the end of this episode, you should have some practical, doable ways to create a sacred space that feels authentic to you. We'll talk about small rituals that can take minutes, but can shift how grief moves through your life, and explore how gratitude and community, very important, can
Hmm.
transform remembrance from something heavy into something sustaining and sustainable. So stay with us, because this is not about adding another task to your grief.
That's right.
It's about giving your loss the dignity of your presence, love, and attention.
Yes. Welcome, dearest beloveds. Today, Wakil and I are sitting around thinking about ways that we can support you as you enter into these moments of grief. And oftentimes people ask like an actual activity, or they don't call it an activity, but people need a thing to do. And so we talked about altar making or rituals, and many people understand what they are conceptually, but what does it mean for you to create an altar? So,
Mhm.
Reverend Joaquin.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Reverend Mother Ana Luisa. um, yeah, we've been talking about this. We talk about it with our friends when we're doing and on the podcast, and both of us really get a lot of pleasure, and I guess a lot
Mhm.
of inspiration and good, just good resonance from the ability to be able to celebrate or to acknowledge. I think that's a better way to think of it, acknowledging the losses that we have.
Mhm.
And so one of the ways to do that is through some kind of a ritual practice, or some kind of, and that can be very, very simple. We can
Mhm.
just simply be sitting in the woods like I was about 10 minutes ago, and
Mhm.
just noticing what's going on around us and really connecting with what's in our hearts. So that
Mhm.
can be as simple as that, or there's things we can do to kind of acknowledge them. And so, yeah, what are the different kinds of losses that you might make an altar for or create a ritual around?
Yeah, so anything, any loss, we can acknowledge it, and we can be led to create a little altar space. And oftentimes when I work with someone who has just recently had a loss, the first thing I ask them, and I don't actually say this like, "Do you have an altar?" What I say is, do you have access to a candle and a picture of your loved one? And then the next phase is like, you could build a little altar to both keep them present, and it's a touchstone for you to keep them in your heart right now as you're kind of going through this travailing season.
Mhm.
And so altars I build altars everywhere I go. It's always an acknowledgement of the little things that I find, and they don't have to be natural, they don't have to be store-bought. They generally just call themselves to be picked up, and then I make little, like, almost spiritual cairns that I can
Mhm.
look at and say, "Oh, that's what we're being in this moment with these items."
Yeah.
And, I think that the word altar always just kind of, um, baffles people or intimidates people, and so
Mm.
altar is just a spot that you create as a sacred space. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's that, right? Like, we can build them
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah. We're setting that intention by saying,
Mhm.
"This is my spot." And like you said, I love that too. Whenever, just anytime you might be walking down the beach and you see a piece of glass or a bottle
Mhm.
or anything, even some garbage, and just create a
Mhm.
ritual around. I'm going to clean this garbage up and I'm going to put it all on this spot and I'm just going to say thank you
Mhm.
for the chance to be of service. So
Mhm.
anything can do that, and of course, losses of any kind. Um,
Mhm.
you know, either maybe you lost a job and you want to just sit down with something that represents that job to you, and something that, whether you're happy about losing it or not, and
Mhm.
just really gratitude. Do you have gratitude for that, or do you have gratitude for the fact that you're not happy about it? I mean, there's a lot of different ways
Or
to,
the people who have been there too,
yeah,
or learned. I mean, it's just an acknowledgement of this time and this occurrence.
yeah, yeah, and acknowledging
Mhm.
your grief or acknowledging your loss. So,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
we go through so many of those, and I think we fail to. I think by not doing and not putting ritual around it, we can sometimes just go right past it and
Gloss
not
over it.
really, yeah,
Mhm.
gloss over it, and that's I'd say to our detriment. I think it would be much more um, valuable and helpful to all of us if we kind of took the
Mhm.
time. And again, this is a time to stop too, just quit letting your mind body just keep go 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 and ignore, but actually take a moment to say, I'm going to stop and really feel this. And
Mhm.
by making this ritual space,
Mhm.
I can feel it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And by ritual space, it becomes an act that you come back to, like, if you light a candle for it, or
Mhm.
I have an altar downstairs with, little glasses of water and a little salt just to, like, remind me that the ancestors are also here, present, and they're
Mhm.
journeying alongside me. So there are different aspects to what you can put on there, and there's just different ways that you can ritualize an altar and have it
Yeah.
be there to support you. And again, like, I love the word touchstone because when I go past one, it's like, "Oh, that intention was about this," and, "Oh, there it is," and maybe it's 2 seconds, but at least I pivoted in my stream of doing, and then come back to, like, being and remind
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great reminder. So we thought
Yep,
we might actually play around, and not play around, but create,
yeah,
some samples, show you what that looks like for us. So,
that's right.
um, I have a
And
space
also that
behind me that usually
it's
has my altar on it, and we're gonna do some stuff with that. Go ahead.
so no, and I wanted to also say, like, Wakil and I usually have altars spaces set up in different parts of our house, but I have also encouraged people who are travelers to have, like, little, like, matchbox altars, like a stone, a tiny
Mm,
feather, a seashell, and you can open it up and, do kind of your prayers or thinking about the person.
yeah.
Um, it's almost like a box of ephemera in some ways, but you're really
Mhm.
intentional about seeing that. But today, I actually went downstairs and decided I wanna show you, like, this is gonna be my altar. It is a tin box, uh, shortbread. It's a shortbread box, but, this is not outside the realm of my possibilities that this happens, but I'm literally gonna set it upside down, and that will be my creative space, my altar.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right?
I wanna show you just what you just spoke about. I'll just go over here to my stuff that I got here. When I go traveling, I have a group. I wanted to show the things that I bring along that are like what you're talking about. Um, and then I also like to find things in the places where I'm going too. So I'll just
Mhm.
take a moment and show you my little collection of miniature goddesses and things. so
Aw,
there's one,
mom.
and then a couple of Buddhas, just in case I'm feeling in a Buddha space. Ding, ding, ding.
Sweet.
and a stone, a
Yeah.
little stone. This is something a dear friend gave me, and it just one other thing I will mention about that, and I think it's an important teaching that I got from one of my teachers, is these things that come into our lives as gifts, like that stone. There was another one very similar, bigger, came into my life, and at one point I was looking at it and sitting there with it on the altar and realized it needed to go somewhere else.
Mhm,
And these things are not something that are. I think we need to really be aware that they're not ours to hold on to.
mhm,
They bless us for the time being, and then at some
mhm.
point, maybe somebody else needs them, and you can kind of
Right.
keep your heart open to that and say, "Oh, yeah, you're the person that needs this stone right now, or this Buddha, or whatever." So that's
Yeah,
another thing about bringing those along with you as you travel.
that is so beautiful, and I love that, and also altars will shift. You might
Yeah,
have your little altar spot on your, bedside table for a week, a month,
yeah,
or it changes after 24 hours because you're ready to bring in something else. So nothing is like a living
yeah,
testament to this time. It does not have to stay stagnant. In
yeah,
fact, many healers would say it shouldn't be stagnant. It needs to be
yeah,
changed.
yeah.
So my f you wanna start? Should we start
No,
talking
you
about
go, you go ahead, and I'll just go grab some of my things, and you go ahead.
well, I wanted to say I always like to carry scarves or a piece of cloth, and I just
Hmm.
cover it. And the reason I do this is sometimes if it's on a wood table or whatever, I put a candle might drip on that, so I always think, "Well, it's okay if I can have to clean it off of this, like, this is a silk piece, and I don't mind, and I'm not gonna have a candle dripping on it on this one," but I always drape it on with a little cloth of some sort, and again, I use tablecloths, I can use colored paper, I find anything that just draws my attention and calls me,
Hmm.
and I use it. So
Yeah,
that's the
even a
point.
flat piece of wood or a stone, right?
Yes, a stone. I love it.
Well, great. Well, you keep going, and I'll put my cloth on, and
Okay.
I'll talk about it when you're done.
Well, and for today, I've started this new practice that I on my walks I am very aware of animals that have died or anybody who's died, and so every day I'm actually seeking out the presence of an animal's past and try to just go acknowledge the loss of that being here on earth with us. And so I wanted to acknowledge the death of quite a few birds in my area. And so I wanted to start out with a little nest that I've had for a number of years to just represent the geese, the magpie that I saw, and just all our feathered kin who struggle sometimes and die and go back to our mother. I have a little feather here, and I always have a candle. And the candle is so that they can see the light. They can be guided by the light, that our heart light or the ephemeral light of the divine. But, I thank my fire that comes from the earth. Thank you for the tree that helped form this match. The fire that just roils beneath our feet in the deep depths of our earth. But with this flame, I connect to all flames and all light. I'll light my little candle here. And oftentimes I just sit and meditate on the loss, or anything that comes up for me in this moment. And I see Wakil has his candle lit, a beautiful cloth.
So I have a heart and wings cloth, which is, as you
The
can
soup.
probably see. Yeah, it's a Sufi symbol, which is the practice I spend much of my time on. And then my little candle, I didn't have a match, so I found one of my little electric candles. Maybe you can't tell. But, uh but yeah, it's that's it. That's all it needs to have right now is as simple
Mhm,
as that, right? Of course,
mhm.
I could show you the pile of things that might also go on there, but and I think maybe just because, we are talking about our beloveds and those who've gone before, I'll put a picture of my parents on here. Put
Yeah,
that back here as
yeah.
as just an honoring of them. Um, so, I'll put that up closer so first of all, I can just show it to everybody. There's
Hi, mom and dad.
mom and dad,
Mhm.
wherever they are
Yeah.
in the spirit. So I'll put that there. And that's, again, that could be it. That could be all it needs to be. And then there's many, many other things that one could add if one wanted to. So it
Mhm,
really depends on your intention. And that's really what this whole thing is about, is setting that intention, right?
mhm, mhm. And it's just a simple act that you can do if you are in that acute place of grief, and there might be a lot of phone calling going on, there might be a lot of questions, and if you can just take a moment, and you don't need a candle, you can just put a little napkin, a restaurant napkin, and anything to
Yeah,
represent this moment,
yeah,
and just keep coming back to it, and there's you you influence its presence, and it influences you. It's a symbiotic relationship that you honor this moment, and it also will be helping you as you go through this time.
yeah. Well, and there's also, we talked a little bit about ceremony, which is kind of another level, but there's also sharing with another, with more people. You could have a family come together and have everybody bring something that they wanted to put on the altar to remember, whether it was a loss or just someone that they're thinking of right now, or whatever, any kind of thing. Um, so how would that look in your family? Say,
Well,
or
I
have
will
you
say
had you had that?
for ceremony, no, not in my immediate family, but I mean, a ceremony is like a eulogy.
Mm-hmm.
Is, it is the culmination of everybody coming together to acknowledge this, new threshold that you have encountered, whether it's the person who dies and goes into the next realm, or it's the family and friends who are still in their corporal aspect, and they're gonna be missing that person.
Yeah.
And I, I just, officiated a funeral this weekend, and what we did was, like, there was a lot of conversations, and I encouraged them to make an altar, but what they ended up doing is, like, creating a pamphlet for their father, which is also a very sacred act. Like,
Mm-hmm.
going through photos, finding a poem, and thinking about this also is a way to you to, like, funnel your love energy in this moment of grief. And ended up being that, so many people spoke at this funeral, and the ceremony with flowers and with laughter. It was that the ceremony is the final act in
Mm-hmm.
terms of,
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing ritual towards a final ceremony around a loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever had an opportunity in a group of people to create an altar, say? And how has that looked? I mean, I remember doing that at our chaplaincy institute at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had an outdoor space where everybody just brought things,
yeah.
and I've done it also at other camps where we just have a space where people just bring. On SDI, I think at SDI they had at this. It's the Spiritual Directors International Conference. They had an area where you could actually bring things and create, and an altar got bigger and bigger and bigger, and um,
And I think at
yes,
Parliament for World Religions, there was the women's altar in the basement, and then there was another
yeah,
altar elsewhere too that I remember. Um, I do. I feel like altar making is a lot of what happens as we enter into communal space with people who are there to learn, and and be together, right? Like,
Mhm.
when I was going through herbal training, we would do that before making medicine as a
Oh,
way
yeah.
to honor the plant spirits and, the healer I worked with as well, like, she had her altar that we also came and contributed, and, for some folks, it's actually like putting down food and other medicine for,
Yeah.
the plants or the teacher or the ancestor,
Mhm.
um, so there's a collectiveness that does occur in a lot of circles. It just doesn't happen as frequently with, like, mainstream, culture in the United States, although, if you remember when we went to Bali, there is a very
Mhm.
active ritual, all and ceremony culture there, and I
Yeah.
was I
Yeah.
was intrigued by the daily, lighting of incense and placing the different flowers that belong to each day to honor the ancestors and the days. They're like literally a calendar to
Yeah.
remind you of who you're going to be, honoring,
Mhm.
and it is done family to family, but it's collective because everybody puts it out so that the community sees that you're actually doing it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Every single structure we went by, whether it was a home or a building or a office or whatever, had its own little altar out in front or its own
mhm,
little space out front where people every day put something new
yes,
in there. And yeah, that was there was a sense in Bali of being because of that, I think, or because of just the sense in general of just being constantly in connection with the divine because it's just a part of their culture. And
mhm,
again, our culture tends to zoom on. So this is an
mhm,
opportunity, really, a place where we can kind of reconnect to that in a better way and create
that's
a
right.
space where we remember. Yeah, where we create remembrance. Um,
Yeah, and
that's
wholeness. I really think that there is an opportunity for us to become whole
yeah.
spiritually, emotionally, physically, as we both integrate and metabolize a loss, a death. If we can hold on to life while also acknowledging death and honoring that this is a moment, this is a threshold,
Hmm.
this is of great importance in this realm of ours, right? Like, and then collectively we can discuss this too. Like,
Hmm.
finding
Yeah,
ways
because
as you go through the process, talking about it, and then coming back to your altar and like really digging deep of, what is it that is actually changing and moving through me? And then going back again and creating more healing. So as you process, that process can be shared with others.
yeah, yeah. You mentioned putting a teacher on there. I'm going to go ahead and add Inayat Khan to my.
Wow, Kasha. Mm,
He's the person who brought the Sufi practices that I do and
mhm,
that we do over to the United States in the beginning of the 20th century. So
mhm.
we'll just add his picture there too. So this is, I think, it's a great way to show how as your day goes on or as your life goes on, and you think, oh yeah, that belongs on the altar.
That's
Um,
right.
anything can go there. Anything, anytime. Yeah.
Anything. And, I sometimes offer fresh cut flowers and I change my stuff. Like you on the days of altar cleaning, it's like everything comes out, new fresh cloth comes in, new candles. But those are my home ones. Like
Hmm.
there are ones that small ones. That's what I'm saying. Like you can have a small one if you've just suffered you're suffering currently with a great feeling of loss. This is
Hmm.
completely appropriate activity without having to go get anything. In
Yeah.
fact, you don't even need a candle. You just need a little tiny spot where you can have 3 to 5 items that can
Hmm.
create a connection for you in the memory or a feeling of who it is that we're mourning. But it
Yeah.
does not require any grand thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like no compulsion, right? The
No.
other thing is that we kind of I think is important is the sense of creating sacred space by stopping long enough to say a prayer or to
Mhm,
take some breaths,
mhm,
um, even before you begin. Just say you are dedicating this space
mhm.
to beauty and to acknowledgement and to presence,
Right.
and to the person or to the thing or to whatever you're wanting to. So taking the time to acknowledge that, and it just sets the intention and it creates that it does, you can create sacred space by taking your shoes off,
Mhm,
um,
that's right,
but,
yes.
any that's kind of the idea that was thinking that we kinda I think it's important to begin with that. I mean, we kinda began with that because that's what we always begin. We always begin with breath. Um, but I think just, acknowledging that we are sacred beings, that we are creating specifically intentionally a sacred space to honor our our feelings, our heart,
Mhm.
or whatever.
Or
So
remembrances.
yeah,
Mhm.
in remembrance. So yeah, so that's I think that's what altars and ritual would look
Mhm.
like. I
Mhm.
mean, it could be talk a little bit more about some of the other things that might happen in a ritual. Can you think like I don't know, building a fire or even
Yeah, well, a ritual is I mean, that's it then it
could
becomes a
be
different
a lot of things.
could be a lot of things. I mean, I just got an email from, a teacher in Guatemala who's getting ready for the solstice, ceremony. And, he's a very ritualized human being and, you know, taking the time to clean the space, not only physically, but energetically, and then
Mhm.
spending time, like, asking the ancestors for, what needs to come in and, his candles, which I have some of my candles here too, thinking about that. It's a whole new level, and I think that um it has that requires more of an intentional, um, thought process. It's not just, "Let's just throw some things out and call it a ceremony or a ritual." A ritual you
Yeah,
do habitually to, like, honor, but a ceremony is, again, like, um, the big act, and the big act
mhm.
requires very strong intentions, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think really all of this, it can be more complex, it can take more time, it
Mhm,
can take days, weeks even to create
mhm.
something like this or to create the kind of ritual. So there's no, formula that we can say you have to do this, this, and this
No,
to
there's no
create a
formula.
ritual. It's
Although
just, it's the intention is really
it's the intention, and I see this sometimes in my classes that people say, "Well, I have a ritual. I drink my coffee every day. It's a ritual." So my
yeah.
question is it a ritual or is it a habit? And, um,
Yeah.
and it's funny because most days for me, it's a habit. It's like feed the cats and then continue coffee. And it was interesting because I think just a day or 2, I remembered that, and I took coffee making to a very slow pace,
Mm,
starting by thanking the water that came out of the faucet, thanking the tea kettle that I filled it with, thanking the flame that came out to warm the water, thanking, like, the cup that somebody made, thanking
mm,
coffee beans that somebody grew and tended and cared for, harvested, bagged, and sent it off to somebody else who roasted the beans, and then that person, obviously sold it to a big company and packaged it and sent it to me. And I'm grateful, and I'm still grateful, right?
yeah, yeah.
And, the coffee beans got ground, the little filter was filled, and as I poured the water, I just, was really led to pray for all the people in the process, specific
Mm,
people in the process of me having
yeah,
my morning coffee, which that becomes a ritual then, because if I were to
yeah,
do this on a daily basis, that is honoring this moment and not just mindlessly consuming.
yeah,
Right? So
yeah.
that's what makes it different from a habit.
Beautiful. Wow, what a great discernment and a great thing to mention. I really appreciate that. Yeah. And so I've been reading people talking about how we can notice even the tiniest little things that we wouldn't even think, to say
Mhm.
thank you for, like the door opened. Wow. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
I live in a nice warm place,
Yes.
I was outside in the cold earlier and I love that feeling in my face of just,
Mhm.
just all those little things. And so we do have an opportunity to just not take anything for granted
That's right.
if we can be really present and set the intention of noticing.
Right.
So again, it's a reminder and it's a way to be in that space of presence and
Right.
acknowledgement and surrender. And so yeah, and that again takes away. We live, I think, in our culture, especially, we kind of are habitual people. We do what we've always done and get up and
Mhm.
do the same thing again. to stop and do that. I love that you mentioned that. I've had that experience doing Kilvat where I'm in silent meditation, which is a silent meditation retreat. About the second day into Kilvat for me, and I'll be eating, and I'll just have that same sense as I pick up the food and I smell it and I look at it, and I've suddenly got, it's not like just every other day gobble gobble. It's like, oh my god, all of these flavors, all of this beauty, the cook, the people who drove the trucks, the people who
Mhm,
harvested in,
mhm.
yeah. So yeah, I love that. I love that sense of really acknowledging everything we have to be grateful for all the time. Great gratitude is maybe the number one ritual, right?
Mhm. And, if you're creating an altar for somebody who's passed, you can also sit there and be in full gratitude for
Yeah,
having the opportunity to travel through this time and place with that person. I think
yeah,
that's a really big piece that I love to offer people. It's like, you are so lucky to have spent that amount of time with that person,
yeah,
learning and being and hugging and, like,
mm,
thank you, thank you, thank you, right? Like,
yeah,
really
yeah,
so
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, I've had people write down, like you talked about earlier, the people making the pamphlet. But I've had people put those things on their altars, write a little note
Mhm,
about the person, and this is something I remember that I really appreciated about this person, or a story
mhm,
about this person. Put it
mhm,
down, and then add that to the altar, again as
mhm,
something to remember, or just some picture that reminds them of that. So yeah.
mhm.
So there's really no end of possibilities, and it really does come down to just, feeling your heart,
Heart.
noticing what
Yeah.
you can, yeah, noticing what resonates for you in your heart and
Mhm,
would help with your remembrance of
mhm,
gratitude,
mhm.
of the person, of the loss, of whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah, what fun. And if you have, any questions or any ideas, we'd love to hear them.
that's right.
And so please get in touch, and thank you for being here with us again. We love
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much. Adios.
Adios.
Crying grief and loss, conversations about the end